Hi, it's Dave from Hectors Smokehouse, and today I'm going to be cooking some mango jalapeno planked salmon. And this is a recipe that I first was introduced to a couple of years ago by one of my friends in America, Andy Groneman. He cooks for the barbecue team Smoke on Wheels. So this is my version from what I can remember how he cooked it, but it's just one of those dishes that is really eye-catching whenever I do a barbecue for friends or at work. And I've got all the brisket, the pulled pork and everything lined up, people still go for the mango jalapeno planked salmon. So this is going to go through all the steps of making that, and I'm going to cook it on the Yoder YS640 pellet grill. For this recipe, I'm going to slice up one white onion, really nice and thin. I'm going to saute that with some garlic. Then going to add in some couple of jalapeños, sliced nice and thinly into rings. I'm going to add some mango chutney and some whole grain mustard, salt and pepper to taste. And that will be we'll saute that together, and that'll be the formation to go on top of the salmon when it goes into the Yoder YS640. So what we're using for this recipe is a side of salmon from Costco in this case, and we've got 2 sliced jalapeños. We're going to use 3 tablespoons of whole grain mustard. We've also got 1 white onion thinly sliced. This is about 3 tablespoons of garlic. I've used about 5 big cloves of garlic minced. 1/3 cup of white wine, that's just to deglaze the pan. Some mango chutney, which is going to be the main base, salt and pepper at the back, some mad Hunky rub, which we're going to use just to put on the fish before we actually put the marinade on. And on the other side you can see the plank, which has been a cedar plank, and it's been soaking for about 3 hours and before it goes onto the grill. So obviously you can cook this on the sauce actually on the barbecue. I'm doing it on the stove top, and then I'm going to go out and cook on the barbecue once I've got it going. So to start with, I've got some olive oil in the pan, got it nice and warm, and I'm going to saute off some white onions in there. They'll go straight in, and I'll put the white onions in with the jalapeños. So the idea is to get those nice and soft first. Soften these up so they go white and translucent. It'll take maybe 4 or 5 minutes, and then once I've got that nice and soft, I'm going to add the garlic in there because I don't want to burn the garlic early. So I'll just add the garlic in a few more minutes. So I'm currently on a low to medium heat. They've been on the go for about now 4 or 5 minutes. You can see the onions are starting to soften up and going a little bit translucent, and the jalapeños are starting to cook. So what I'll do now is I'll add in the garlic, and again just don't want to catch the garlic, so make sure you keep moving it around so that you don't actually catch the garlic in there. So again I'll do this for about another 4 or 5 minutes, and then after I've done this for 4 or 5 minutes I'm going to deglaze the pan with the white wine and let that reduce for a minute or 2, and then I'm going to start adding the chutney and also the whole grain mustard. So we'll come back to this in a few seconds. So we've now been sweating down the onions and the garlic for another 3 or 4 minutes, and you can see that's really nice and soft now. In here I add 2 jalapeños, 2 large ones, and I've done it before with 4 in to get it really nice and hot. I've kept it quite mild today, so if you want to add more you can definitely add more into there. So what I'm now going to do is deglaze the pan. So I've got a little bit of 1/3 cup of white wine, and we'll deglaze the pan, get that into the onions, and that'll soak up some of that flavour from the wine as the alcohol starts to evaporate, and we'll leave that again for another 3 or 4 minutes until most of that wine has actually evaporated and we've got all those nice flavours off the bottom of the pan as well. So it's only taken a minute or two, but the wine has started to reduce. So what we'll do now is we'll start to add in the mango chutney, and we'll also add in the whole grain mustard. So this is the mango chutney we use, which is Beerenberg, which is an Australian one. But obviously you can use anything locally to where you are. And this really adds a lot of flavour into the dish. And then what I'm also going to add is about 3 tablespoonfuls of whole grain mustard. This is the French whole grain mustard. It's called Mealy. So there's 3 in there. Don't need to be precise, but it gives you a bit of an idea of what's in there. And then we'll start to mix all of this in. And this is going to be the sauce then that's going to end up going on top of the mango, on top of the salmon, and cook on the barbecue. This recipe is on my website. So if you go to www.hectorssmokehouse.com and look under recipes, you can find the recipe for mango jalapeno planked salmon. So yeah, just go on there, have a look on there, and you should be able to see the recipe. So we'll come back to this, we'll leave it again another 5-10 minutes, let it reduce, thicken up a little bit, and then I'll just leave it to a side while I get the barbecue going. So you can see the sauce is now bubbling along quite well. You can see it a little bit more there. And it's looking really good at the moment, so another couple of minutes and I should be ready to come back off. So we've now been simmering for about 15 minutes. Make sure during this period you keep stirring and taking it off the bottom. I use a flat bottom wooden spoon just to make sure it doesn't catch, because it can catch. And this is about ready now, so it's been around about 15 minutes of simmering, but just keep your eye on it. And when it's ready really. But this is looking about the right sort of consistency that I'm looking for at this moment in time. So what I'll do is now I'm going to take it off the heat, and I'm going to pour it into a dish, and then I'm going to let it cool down before I actually put it onto the salmon. So you can see that'll just go into the dish, and then we'll let that cool down before it goes onto the salmon. There you go. And that's what it looks like finished. So there you go, that's the mango jalapeno in the container, just waiting to cool down. And then once it's cooled down, it'll go onto the salmon to cook in the barbecue. So today I'm going to cook the planked salmon on the Yoder YS640. So what I'm going to do to prep this to get it ready for it, I'm going to move the normal grates out of the way for now. I'm going to remove the trapdoor and move that out of the way. By moving the trapdoor away, it actually exposes the fire pit underneath. So we're going to get the flames coming up through there. I'll put these back on here. So the intention will be to cook the salmon plank over here, let it catch, let it start to smoulder a little bit, get that cedar flavour going into the salmon, and then move it into the indirect side and finish it off on the indirect side. I'm going to cook this at around about 400 F. It'll be the temperature that I'll cook it at, so it'll get it nice and charred underneath, but then move it across once it's actually well and truly on the go, and you've got that smoked flavour getting into the salmon. So what I'm going to do is just quickly trim the salmon so it fits dead on the plank. So we'll get this nice piece of salmon out and put it on the plate, on the table. We'll take we'll start with the thin end. Let's fold that under a little bit. So I'm going to take a piece off there. So we've got a piece off the end of there. I know that this is the same length as the plank, so that looks about dead on. So I want to trim a piece off there. So that's going to be the piece of salmon that I'm going to use. Then just going to give it a quick check over and see if there's any bones that need pulling out of it, and if there is, I'll pull those bones out first. So there's the salmon on the plank. Now what I'm going to do is just to add a tiny bit of Mad Hunky Rub onto the salmon. Not a great deal, but just a little bit. So yeah, just the tiniest little bit of the rub on there. I'm then going to spoon over the mango and jalapeno onto the top. A good thing with this is I hate seafood. I'm not a big seafood lover, and I especially don't like cooking seafood. But this is very, very simple to do. So all I'm going to do is spread that over, make sure that everywhere's got a piece of it. One of the things you can do if you wanted to, you can actually pre-slice the salmon into pieces. So when I'm cooking this at Christmas, when I'm doing the barbecue at work, I actually slice it first. So it's in bite-sized portions, because otherwise when it's flaky it can be a little bit more difficult to slice up nice and tidy, especially if you want to do thin slices for a party. But you can see that's on there, nice and easy, very simple. And then all we're going to do is add a bit of a garnish to there. So take a piece of rosemary, push a piece of rosemary in there, and that's about it. That's as much as you need to do, and that should be pretty good. So there's a little bit of a close-up of the salmon actually finished and ready to go on the grill. So it looks pretty good, and all we've got to do now is cook it on the grill. We're going to try and char the bottom, get some smoke into the salmon from the cedar plank, and then we're going to cook it till it's about 140 F internal, and that's when we're going to take it off. So in there you can see the fire pit going now. So we're going to put the actual plank directly above the fire pit, let that catch maybe for 10 minutes, keep our eye on it. Once it's caught, we'll move it over onto the indirect side. So here we go. Let's put it directly above there. Then the idea will be we'll get that going and get some of them flames actually into the wood, get it to smoke, and then the smoke will create the flavour, the cedar flavour that's actually going to go into the salmon. So I reckon now we're probably just about ready to actually move this across into the indirect area. So I'll just zoom this back out. So now I'll lift it across. So I'll just use these nippers and slide her across. And you can see it's actually started to catch on that side, which is perfect. So it's catching over here, and that'll get the flavour getting into the salmon, which should be beautiful. So I've now moved the salmon into the middle. As you can see, it's right in the middle now, so I've got that in there. I've put the deflector plate back in, so there's no direct heat coming onto the wood anymore. So that should just get that smoke flavour going in now. So the salmon's been on for 40 minutes altogether at 400 F, and the first 15 minutes with the direct heat, and then the last 25 minutes with indirect. And you can see we're just about at the right temperature, so I'm looking at 140, and you can see we're just about to get there. So yeah, 140, I reckon that's just about perfect for this salmon. So I'll take it off now, and it's perfect and done.